Welcome, boys and girls. Today we're going to talk about a member of the raptor family, and this is the osprey. The osprey oftentimes gets mixed up with the bald eagle, but I think by the end of this presentation you're going to see that they are two very different birds. So let's begin with those top boxes once again, as we always do. That first box is the silhouette in black and white, and if we take a close look we can see that hooked beak and we can see that solid upright stance. That's very typical of raptors. That second picture shows us that sharp hooked beak, that beak that we always see on our raptors. Long, sharp talons. And in this case, the talons themselves are black. The feet are actually white on the osprey. And let me move back just for a second. The beak is black on the osprey. That's a little bit of contrast toward the bald eagle, who had a yellow beak and yellow feet. But in the case of the osprey, black beak and white feet. Also, they are tree nesters, and we're going to see some interesting places that osprey build their nest. They like their nest high, but they're not particular on what high item they build it on. And lastly, in the case of the osprey, they are diurnal, meaning they are active during the day. The osprey is not as large as an eagle, but they are still an impressive bird of prey with striking field marks. Any large black and white hawk-like bird seen near large lakes or rivers in the state should be considered an osprey, unless you can be sure you are not looking at a bald eagle. All right, so let's take a quick look at that picture down the bottom on the left. It says nesting on a platform. So that's a nest that an osprey built right on a platform, not a tree. And there's a picture of an osprey. We see that sharp hooked beak, it's black, and we see the white legs and sharp black talons. And I've put a circle around one of those black talons for you. What's the difference? They said that a lot of times people mix up the bald eagle and the osprey. I think just looking at these two pictures, you can see some differences. Let's talk about some significant ones. The osprey, as I said, has a black, sharp hooked beak, in contrast to the bald eagle's yellow. The osprey has white chest feathers, and if you take a look at the bald eagle, they're dark brown. And then lastly, the osprey has those strong white legs, and although we can't see too well, we know that the bald eagle has strong yellow legs. There are other differences as well. If you look at the general size of the two birds, you can see that the osprey is actually a little bit thinner than the eagle. Ospreys are black above and white below, with a white head marked by black cheek patches. In flight, their wrists are black against the white underside, and their flight silhouette is a distinct, crooked, or squashed M in the wings. So let's take a look at that first. We can take a look at that silhouette, a little bit different than when we saw with the bald eagle. The osprey makes almost an M shape with the way that it holds its wings. And I put a circle around those so-called wrists that they're talking about that are actually black. So when we're looking underneath at an osprey, this is how it's going to look to us. All right, ospreys don't soar as well as other birds of prey. Their flight resembles a seagull's slow wing beats. The wingspan is up to 6 feet, and they stand 20 to 24 inches from head to tail, but are noticeably thinner than eagles and perch in a slightly horizontal position, giving the impression they are ready to take off. All right, so once again, boys and girls, I think we used Mr. Uchef. We talked about his height, that he's about 6 feet. So that is probably the width of the osprey's wingspan. So remember, we would put 2 extra rulers on Mr. Uchef's height to get the wingspan of a bald eagle. So the osprey still has a very large wingspan, quite daunting, I think, if we were very close to one. And they stand 20 to 24 inches tall. We're talking, that 2 rulers, really 2 rulers, one on top of the other. They are thinner, as I said, than the bald eagle, and I think you would notice that in a side-to-side comparison a little bit better. So on the picture to the left, I've actually drawn a circle around the dark brown eye strip, and I have an arrow pointing to the dark brown wings, and the white chest feathers as well. And that osprey is a beautiful bird. All right. Imagine, boys and girls, you're standing by a lake on a beautiful sunny day. The sky is clear, not a cloud in sight. You look up, and there it is, a bird, effortlessly above you, soaring above you. Excuse me, I did not read that very well. It could be a hawk, or an osprey, or a bald eagle. So here's a look at a bald eagle and an osprey. Once again, you're standing down on the ground, you're looking up, you're seeing a bird soaring. I think when you drive down Route 30 or generally around us, if we look up in the air and we see a large bird soaring, it's a hawk, oftentimes a red-tailed hawk, but a hawk nonetheless. So these two are going to look very, very different. We're going to see that mix of white and brown if we're looking up at an osprey, and very distinctive colors if we're looking up at a bald eagle. That solid brown, almost black looking wingspan body, bright white tail, and a white head. So you can see as you're looking up at the two of them, very different looking. And definitely the flight stance, much, much different. Flat when we look at the bald eagle, and that crooked M shape when we look at an osprey. Superb fishers, osprey, hover high above the water before dropping down to grab a fish with their talons, sometimes submerging momentarily to grasp their prey. Unique scales on their feet help them hold the struggling fish while they fly back to a perch or a nest, turning the fish face forward to reduce wind resistance. So if we look at that bottom left picture, the osprey is laser focused on its prey. And you can see he's not taking his eyes off of that prey for 1 second. He is staring it down. Okay, and note the position of the osprey as it heads towards the water. He's prepared to be submerged if necessary to catch its prey. So let's take a look at this. We can kind of see the steps as the osprey is getting ready to plunge into the water. And unlike the bald eagle, the osprey's approach is a little bit different. I'm going to show you that on the next slide, but let's not leave without at least reminding ourselves he is a superb fisher. Okay, that laser eye focus and the ability to streamline as he's heading toward the water make him superb at catching fish. And he has those unique scales on his feet. They're a little rough, and so the slippery fish are not apt to slide through at all. And then another comment that he turns his fish to face forward as he flies away. Okay, let's go ahead. Here we have him again. This is another angle, a side angle where we can see him approaching the water. The osprey pushes his feet forward with his head following close behind, prepared for an underwater encounter if necessary. The bald eagle, on the other hand, keeps his head back. The eagle hopes its encounter will require brief contact with the water. Osprey, like all raptors, are carnivores. Fish make up the majority of their diet. So you can see his position is a little bit different than what we're going to see on the bald eagle in the next slide, but you can definitely see, once again, let's zoom in a little bit, that is laser focus. Those talons are extended, and he is ready to grab a fish. And then that fun fact, we mentioned this on the previous slide. Once the fish is in the hand, the osprey will turn the fish so it is facing forward. Scientists think the osprey does this to decrease wind resistance when flying. So here's this bird flying, and now he's got this potentially heavy fish in his talons, and he needs to be flying with the least amount of wind resistance that he possibly can. So facing forward seems to be the best position to put that fish in. All right, and here we have a side-by-side of the bald eagle and the osprey. I thought it'd be kind of neat to show you all what the two approaches look like. Both the bald eagle and the osprey are superb fishers based on their body posture. Which bird do you think has a better chance of snagging a fish on their first pass? It's very rare, boys and girls, for either raptor to miss their prey. After all, they have excellent eyesight and strong, sharp talons. But one raptor's posture suggests a bit more determination. What do you think? Be prepared to share your thoughts in class. So I'll ask you guys once we get into class a little bit more about this, but I want you to take close note. So this is what the eagle looks like as it's about to grab onto a fish that it sees in the water. And then this is what the osprey looks like. If you're looking at that osprey, by gosh, he is determined. I'm going to get that fish whether I have to go underwater or not. The bald eagle, on the other hand, he's kind of a cool dude. He's deciding that I don't want to get my head wet unless I absolutely have to. So we'll talk about that a little more in class. Osprey calls are high-pitched whistles. Their nests can be seen on treetops, utility poles, billboards, channel buoys, and other high structures, natural or man-made. They are quite tolerant of human activity, but will duck down in the nest when there is too much commotion. The stick nests that they build are loose, bulky, and lined with bark and grasses. Some nests, which are used year after year, are decorated with shells or pieces of fish nets. The female lays an average of 3 white or pinkish eggs with brown spots. All right. The osprey in general mate for life. They build their nest near water. Environmentalists believe female osprey choose their mating partner based on the quality and location of the male's nest. It's pretty funny. They kind of say, build that nest, and if I like the looks of it, I just may want to be your partner. All right, let's zoom in a little bit close. There's that man-made platform in the first picture. You can see a nest on top of a boat sign in the second picture. And look at that, the remnants of a tree that is now surrounded by water, but that's okay. The osprey says, I can build a beautiful nest right there. I'm right in the water. And there, it could be a boat sign or a channel buoy. I'm not sure which, but a great place for an osprey to build a nest. Here's one that I believe is on the top of a utility pole. I'm not 100% sure, not the best place to build a nest, but nonetheless, very close to the water. We could see that underneath. And lastly, another man-made platform. So for the osprey, it could be a tree. It could be a man-made platform. He's not really that picky. He just likes it high, where he can get a great view of the water to search for his fish. And he'd like it a little bit quiet, although he can tolerate some level of people. All right, boys and girls, I'm not moving this slide all the way up just yet. There is a warning I want to give everyone. Always dispose of trash properly. In addition to sticks, bark, and grass, items such as hula hoops, rag dolls, toy boats, fish wire, and trash have been found in osprey nests. Some of these items can cause great harm to the osprey and its young. So boys and girls, I want you to remember this is a bird that's building its nest. And the osprey thinks that if it finds shiny objects and puts it in its nest, it's almost like decorating that nest, and it makes it a little bit nicer. So I'm going to show you a nest that an osprey built and decorated. And there you have it. This slide makes me so sad, boys and girls. I put some circles in this slide. I've circled a plastic bag. I've circled a chip wrapper of some sort. I've circled the top to a coffee cup, another plastic bag, a few plastic bags really. Very, very sad. Please understand the bird does not know the difference between trash and acceptable things that can line this nest. So we, as human beings, have to do that for him, and that's by disposing of our trash properly in trash cans. All right. At 18 months, ospreys achieved their full adult plumage, meaning their full adult feathers, and they look just like their parents. Now, remember from our last screencast, bald eagles reach full maturity at age 5. There's a big difference between 18 months or 1.5 years old and age 5. We remember the difficulty that the bald eagle ran into after ingesting pesticides and trying to regenerate its population. The osprey didn't have the same problem because osprey reached full maturity at 1.5 years rather than 5. All right, ospreys lay a clutch of 1 to 3 white to pinkish eggs with brown spots. Take a close look at those eggs. They look kind of pretty, don't they? I like those. All right. Osprey young have brown eyes until they reach full maturity. Then their eyes turn yellow. So let's see. We can zoom in. I don't know how well we can see the eyes there, but we can certainly see that the adult has a bright yellow eye. Let's go ahead to that one in the middle. Here we can definitely notice that that young has brown eyes, and the adult has yellow eyes. Kind of a unique type of thing. And we can tell here that we're looking at immatures. Once again, their eyes are not completely yellow. They're moving toward yellow, but they still have that brownish hue to them. So that gives us an idea that they're probably still rather young. All right. Boys and girls, let's take a walk around and review what we learned about the osprey today. Number 1, osprey have superb vision and dark brown eye stripes. So let's talk about that. Superb vision. Remember how we talked about how far a bald eagle could see? He had that binocular vision. Osprey is the same. Spectacular eyesight. And that brown eye stripe helps us distinguish it from a bald eagle that has that pure, completely white, bald head, as they would say. Number 2, sharp hooked black beak. So his beak is black, and if we zoom in, let's zoom in a little bit, that is quite the hook on the end of that beak. Quite good for tearing into meat, I would say. Number 3, osprey are carnivores. Fish make up the majority of their diet. So once again, like the bald eagle, they love fish. Very important. Number 4, the osprey has white chest feathers. All right, we definitely saw those white chest feathers. We were able to see those when the osprey was in flight in one of our previous slides, and of course we can see it right here. Number 5, long, sharp talons. Ospreys have unique scales on their white feet to help grab and hold slippery prey like fish. Let's zoom in and take a look at that. Look at that foot talon. That is amazing. So you can see that those, they're almost like a spiky little pad of some sort. Definitely going to help him grip that slippery fish. And of course, those talons are perfect for grabbing its prey, be it fish or anything that it happens to be grabbing, because it will still take small mammals and things like that. So not just fish, it can put other things into its diet if necessary. All right, number 6, male and female osprey look alike. The female tends to be larger than the male. Osprey reach full maturity by 18 months. So once again, in the raptor family, boys and girls, the males and the females do look alike. The females tend to be a little bit bigger. And that full maturity, the adult plumage, comes around 18 months. All right, so again, a bald eagle, that doesn't happen until they're age 5. We can really tell the difference between an immature and adult for quite a while. With the osprey, they become, they look exactly like their parents by 18 months old. All right, number 7, they build nests near the water. Very important. The majority of their diet is fish, so building a nest near the water is very important. Number 8, osprey mate for life. And in general, they do mate for life. Occasionally, that may not work out, but the vast majority of time they mate for life. Number 9, osprey are brown on top and white on the bottom. Boys and girls, if you remembered those flight pictures that we looked at, when we looked at the osprey, and let me go back there just for a second, we'll take a good look at that. Get ourselves all the way back. There we go. So when they talk about white on the bottom and dark on top, if we take a look at that osprey, this is the look we have from underneath. And if we're looking at that osprey, definitely a white look from the bottom. We can see some brown, black color on it, but if we were to look at that bird in the sky, we'd see a lot of white. The opposite is true if we were looking down on that osprey. I can't imagine a scenario where we are, but if we were looking down on an osprey, we would see dark brown, because the top of the osprey's feathers are dark brown. So that's the distinguish that they're making when they talk about the top and the bottom of the bird. All right, let's get back to where we were at. All right, that was number 9. And number 10, it's that reminder I'm going to give you one more time. Remember that we saw that nest in an earlier slide. If you recall, the osprey was decorating their nest with trash. Pollution is still a problem, and we must be mindful of wildlife when disposing of our trash. Because honestly, boys and girls, wildlife don't know the difference. So it is our job to help them out. All right, well, thanks for joining me today. That concludes our lesson on the osprey, and I look forward to seeing everybody in class.